Hey Joe, we have to turn loose that guy who drank 11 bottles of whiskey. I know he's guilty, but we can't make a case out of 11 bottles. Always something to do around here. Today I figured let's go back to the Three Stooges. I haven't done a Stooges video in a while. And today I thought, you know what, let's celebrate Shemp. So often, maybe more so when I was growing up, but certainly still today, people forget about Shemp, or they don't watch Shemp shorts, forgive the traffic noise, or they don't really think of Shemp as one of the premier Stooges, but Shemp is absolutely amazing. I thought today we dig through some old VHS tapes and stuff, talk about some of my favorite Shemp films. Now we can get all of Shemp's shorts today, and I know quite a few of you have watched my review of every single Three Stooges DVD volume, and in many cases a lot of these shorts were making their way to home media for the very first time in these collections. Of course, several Shemp shorts are on Blu-ray, not all of them. I unboxed that Blu-ray collection from Columbia's Anniversary series, and many people were not particularly happy during that video, not because of my review, but because they didn't like the short films that were picked or the way the package was organized, that sort of thing. But you can get quite a few Shemp shorts on Blu-ray, you can get them all on DVD, but for a long time, most Shemp shorts were not readily available on home media. We've talked before on this channel about some of the weirdo home media releases, like these strange Good Times VHS tapes that had a lot of the stock footage remakes and kind of the weirder odds and ends on them. But these never really caught on. Doesn't seem like they were a particularly mainstream release or anything like that. They're still very interesting sort of curios to have these random short films from near the end of the Shemp era in your collection, but to not have so many other short films. Also, we've talked a lot about the themed collections on here, and many of these are Shemp focused, not all of them of course, but quite a few. Merry Mavericks, Dizzy Doctors, and Spook Louder all have some curly material, but they are predominantly Shemp collections. Shemp shorts even made it onto some of the colorized releases. So you could get Shemp stuff, but you certainly couldn't get all of it, or even the majority of it, just through collecting videos and DVDs over the years. Shemp, of course, has enjoyed a very lucrative and very long solo film career. He was in Abbott and Costello's Buck Privates and In the Navy, and several other Abbott and Costello films. He was with W.C. Fields in The Bank Dick. He did movies with John Wayne. He was in The Invisible Woman from Universal Horror, all kinds of stuff like that. Shemp had a very bankable career as a character actor, and of course when Curly was too ill to perform anymore, he jumped back to fill in. I say back because the very first Stooges picture, 1930s Soup to Nuts, is indeed Moe, Larry, and Shemp. Or Harry, Larry, and Shemp, I guess you could say too. Moe is weirdly credited as Harry Howard here. I've talked about Soup to Nuts on this channel before. Ted Healy's in there too, as is Freddie Sanborn as kind of a fourth Harpo Marx-esque Stooge who does kind of a mime routine. Soup to Nuts is extremely forgettable. Outside of a few Stooges segments, I don't remember anything about it. I almost never revisit it. Not a big fan. Again, the Stooges themselves are the highlight, and they are quite good. I do like the fact they sing their song Tears in its entirety. That's definitely the highlight for me. But at the end of the day, Soup to Nuts is pretty forgettable. Shemp also appeared as a member of the Stooges in the feature film Gold Raiders. Gold Raiders is just a quickie little western. I think it's less than an hour. Yeah, 56 minutes. A quickie vehicle for George O'Brien. They have a decent supporting role. They don't do much near the end of the movie, but they have a few extended gag scenes and that kind of thing that work out pretty well. Gold Raiders, not essential Stooges watching, but if you have the chance to check it out, I recommend it, especially if you want just like a quick feature film you can kind of breeze through. But let's take a look today at Shemp shorts on VHS. Now, several of these were originally released as part of the RCA Columbia 3-star line. You see the 3 stars above the picture there, and they were reissued with updated artwork to match the rest of the Stooges series as well. Here's the only 3-star video I have. I need to hunt down some more of these because they are really neat with that artwork and stuff. But keep in mind, people might have had those volumes when these ones were coming out, and some of these are among the last Three Stooges VHS tapes that were released. So let's go ahead and jump in with one of those from kind of the final wave, Out West. So we'll kind of go in roughly chronological order by the eponymous short film there. So Out West teamed with Punchy Cow Punchers and Merry Mavericks, so 3 westerns. Of course, I want to know your favorite Shemp short in the comments, but I'd also like to know your favorite Stooges Western. For me, it's Yes, We Have No Bonanza. But if you like Shemp, you might favor one of these. Punchy Cowpunchers is especially interesting because it has background music, something that we don't often see in Three Stooges shorts. Out West is pretty serviceable. Merry Mavericks has some interesting stuff in it too. It has some horror elements, which we don't often see a Western and horror combo, at least not in the Three Stooges world. Maybe they were predicting Curse of the Undead or something, I don't know. But very, very interesting there. This is also one of the last Stooges videos released because they use the Curly logo instead of the Shemp logo on the video, and also because Shemp is credited as Shemp Sam Howard. Of course, Shemp's real first name was Samuel, and that became Shemp, I guess, due to a pronunciation thing, but I still think crediting him as Shemp Sam is kind of weird. Going back in time now, you can see the Shemp logo. This VHS tape came out earlier than that previous one. Heavenly Days, team with the Ghost Hawks and Hocus Pocus. Heavenly Days, pretty good stuff. I like that we have Sam McDaniel, Hattie McDaniel's brother. She was, of course, the Oscar winner for Gone with the Wind. Ghost Hawks, never been a favorite of mine. I like the remake Creeps much better. Hocus Pocus, that's a pretty fun one with the Stooges facing off against a hypnotist. The remake Flagpole Jitters actually does a plot reversal, which is pretty cool. Yeah, some good stuff on there. Next up we have Shivering Sherlocks. This was released on the 3-star label as Studio Stoops and Other Nyucks. Here it was given the updated artwork to fit in with the rest of the series. You can see that Shemp logo up there at the top. I think this was only ever used on those VHS tapes. It never carried over to the DVDs or any of the merchandise that I'm aware of. Here anyway, Shivering Sherlocks is teamed with Studio Stoops. That's a really good one. Like that a lot. Dolly DeVore stars in the new picture Kiss the Moonbeams Off My Elbow. And here we also see Crime on Their Hands. I don't think the picture for Shivering Sherlocks, the bottom short, actually goes with that one. I think the middle photo is from Shivering Sherlocks, and that's from their short film Spooks. I might be wrong about that. Please comment if I am. But Shivering Sherlock's never been a big favorite of mine. I like the remake of Cash and Hash much better. It does a better job with kind of the plot. Crime on Their Hands, that's a pretty fun one with Harold the Gorilla and Shemp swallowing a diamond and so on. The remake Hot Ice is pretty good too, though. That's what instance I think where the original remake are kind of on the same level. But if you like crime or detective-related short films, you probably get a lot out of this video. I'm going to jump around a little bit now. There's Curly on the cover for Oui Oui Monsieur. What they did for this VHS release was combine Curly and Shemp shorts. This is done, again, on several of these themed collections. But this was the only regular VHS tape that did it, barring some of those public domain tapes and so on. So it's really interesting. Of course, we have Molière and Curly and Oui Oui Monsieur. But then you see two Shemp shorts, Fiddlers 3, never been a favorite of mine. The remake Musty Musketeers is much better. And you see in the middle, Pardon My Clutch, and the remake for that was Wham Bam Slam, which has a couple interesting things, but I think Pardon My Clutch is better overall. I know when these releases were coming out, a lot of people were adamant they would never combine Curly and Shemp shorts together, but indeed they did. I think, honestly, the releases are all that much stronger for it, because here we see the final few Curly shorts kind of segueing into the Shemp shorts, and it works really well. And I'm sure back in the 90s someone bought this tape and was like, why are there Shemp shorts on here? There shouldn't be Shemp shorts here, but truth be told, I think they work pretty well. Like I said, Shemp stepped into his Three Stooges role very, very easily, took over for what he needed to do. He knew the routines already, he'd been in soup to nuts, he'd done the stuff on stage, it was a pretty easy transition, I'm sure. For all our historians, I'm a Monkey's Uncle, their caveman short. I kind of like the remake Stone Age Romeo's a little bit better. And also Mummies, Dummies, and Squareheads of the Round Table. Mummies Dummies is a lot of fun. I play that actually for my mythology students when we start our Egypt unit. It's always a lot of fun there. They enjoy things in that short. Shemp sneezing in the sarcophagus, you know, Larry being fed by a slave, and then she drops, you know, a pineapple on his face, that kind of thing. Works pretty well. Squareheads of the Round Table is pretty fun. The remake Nutsy Nights is pretty good too. And in this stack, last one I have. For a long time, Three Stooges Online Filmography ranked Whodunit as the greatest Stooges short of all time. I don't know that that's still the case. Not sure it would be my pick. I've often thought about ranking Stooges shorts, but with all the remakes the stock footage reuse, that kind of thing, the fake Shemps where Joe Palma doubled for Shemp after his death, all that kind of complicates doing a ranking. I've thought maybe about just ranking the 97 Curly films. I know what my bottom one would be. Bonus points if you know the only Curly short I don't actually enjoy. I know I've said it in some of my previous Stooges videos, but that's a project I've never really felt like tackling. But this video is pretty strong. Of course, Who Done It is a blast. We also have Shemp's first short, Fright Night. Again, he steps right into that part. Easy as pie. You know, someone who'd gone to the theater and enjoyed Curly would probably enjoy Shemp just as well. And of course, Hold That Lion, where Curly pops up briefly in a little cameo there as a sleeping train passenger. What's that, a Cocker Spaniel? No, just a Spaniel, that sort of thing. Sleeping with a big clothespin on his nose. That's a lot of fun there. Now, of course, a lot of, I should say 4 Stooges shorts are in the public domain, and a lot of releases include Brideless Groom, Sing a Song of Sixpence, and Malice in the Palace. In terms of these VHS tapes, neither Brideless Groom nor Malice in the Palace ever got an official one. We'll come back to Sing a Song of Sixpence later. The DVDs did get an official Brideless Groom, and of course these releases include all of them. But it's interesting that the VHS tapes generally avoided the public domain material as much as possible. Maybe they figured there was no sense in releasing it because it was already available through a bunch of other labels as is. They didn't have to focus on it. Alright, next up, my favorite Shemp short, Fuelin' Around. First you pour in the alkabob, then you pour in the shish kebab, then you fold in a jigger of sarsaparilla. That kind of thing. Spelled sideways is... How do you spell it? That's right, put it down. So, I love Fuelin' Around. Again, my favorite Shemp short. A couple other good ones on here. The Hot Scots. That's a lot of fun. I love Scotland, so seeing them in a Scottish castle with some European character actors always a good time. Actually, just a couple European character actors. Most of them were American-speaking Scottish accents, but nonetheless, a lot of fun there. And Hula La La, one that doesn't get talked about very much, but is also a good time. That kind of thing. How do you say scram in your language? Good stuff. I like it. Alright, one of the harder tapes for me to find, again you see that Shemp logo on top, was Vagabond Loafers. That's the remake of Plumbing We Will Go. Not as good as a Plumbing We Will Go, but it does some different things with the story, kind of make it more unique and more original. Also teamed with Three Dark Horses, always a good choice to watch around Election Day. And The Pest Man Wins, their far superior remake to the Curly short Ants in the Pantry. Pest Man Wins was a favorite of mine as a kid, and is still one I like to watch today. So a lot of good stuff on here. Alright, going back now you can see another one with a Curly logo, so this is one of the later releases there, and we get the weird Shemp Sam Howard credit. Dopey Dicks. So Dopey Dicks, of course, they're kind of film noir spoof. Janitors working for Sam Shovel, Private Eye. Took me a long time to get that joke. Of course, go to the haunted house, and Phil Van Zant's the mad scientist. That's a lot of fun. Scrambled Brains is a big favorite, rightfully so. Shemp hallucinating a little bit, that kind of thing. He wants to marry Nora. I like that one a lot, and that, for me, feels like one of the first Stooges shorts that was really influenced by television, that you wanted kind of a self-contained story instead of just, 15, 20 minutes of chaos. That's always a highlight. And The Tooth Will Out. This one's interesting because it used a lot of unused footage from Merry Mavericks. That was filmed and then it was deemed too long, so it was just put in the can, dug it out and built a short film around it. Tooth Will Out has some really funny parts, so... Hey teeth, look! Alright, 3 Arabian Nuts. See on the cover there, them with the genie, and with Dick Curtis and Phil Van Zant as some kind of Bedouin warriors, that sort of thing, who stow away to retrieve the lamp. We also get the public domain short Sing a Song of Sixpence. Again, one of those few public domain releases that got an official Columbia video. And we also see All Gummed Up. We'll come back to All Gummed Up a little bit later in the video with the Stooges working on the Fountain of Youth. Another one of the last few that was released was Listen Judge. Team with Bubble Trouble and Dunked in the Deep. Dunked in the Deep is a lot of fun. Gene Roth as Borch, the Soviet spy who destroys microfilm, or destroys documents I should say, and takes microfilm of those documents back to his own country, that sort of thing. Enlists the Stooges as unwilling helpers in his plan to smuggle the documents out in watermelons, apparently based on something real-life spy Alger Hiss did, hiding documents inside pumpkins. They took it for that, but that has a lot of fun bits there. Mr. Borch, yes, that kind of thing. And then Bubble Trouble is actually the stock footage remake of All Gummed Up. In All Gummed Up, the Stooges discover the Fountain of Youth, give it to their mean boss. He turns into a child actor Norman Alstead in really weird makeup. Here he turns into a gorilla, and they play into kind of like the horror science fiction angle. Bubble Trouble also got released to DVD back in these themed collection days. It was on the Dizzy Doctors disc. Really odd to see it here though, because again, they skipped over several originals, things like Hugs and Mugs, Malice in the Palace, those were all kind of skipped over in favor of a stock footage remake. So that's very surprising to me. I wonder why they did that. Maybe someone at Columbia really liked Bubble Trouble. Alright, next up, Corny Casanovas. Corny Casanovas has the Stooges facing off against Connie Suzanne, who kind of played usually like a femme fatale character in several of their shorts. She was really funny. I wish she'd been in more of them. And then it also comes with a Misfortune, the remake of Healthy, Wealthy, and Dumb. I still like the original more. And He Cooked His Goose, another one of those Stooges shorts that feels like it was made in response to television. You know, He Cooked His Goose has Larry as a cheating husband, or as a cheating lover, I should say. Moe is the husband being cheated on, and Shemp kind of caught in the middle, and that kind of thing. It has much more of a plot that we would usually expect. And it's interesting to see it here. Something kind of different from the Stooges. Not everyone likes He Cooked His Goose, and honestly, I get why they might not like it, because it doesn't feel quite like a regular Stooges short. But interesting to have it, and I'm glad they put it on one of these official releases. It also was on one of the Good Times videos, if I can find where I put them. So it's one of the few, maybe the only one, it's on the pink one, if you can see it there in the bottom panel. Interesting stuff that it was released on both the Good Times label and the Columbia one. And lastly, our final video for today, Gents in a Jam. Gents in a Jam is a lot of fun there with Emil Sitka and Mickey Dugan, that kind of thing. And then you see A Snitch in Time, another one of my favorite Shemp shorts, as it involves them kind of doing carpentry and so on. A lot of opportunities for mayhap with tools. And then lastly we have Goof on the Roof, another one that involves them trying to install a TV set, crashing through the roof, destroying everything. Definitely some highlights there. Someone once said if you like Home Improvement, this is the tape that you'll like, because it involves so much sort of domestic destruction. Good stuff. So please comment your favorite Shemp shorts below, or what you like about Shemp and his career. Hope to see you next time. In the meantime, spread out!